Hello, very good morning. You're watching Sky News Breakfast. We're going to dive into the papers once again. Here with me to discuss them are the broadcaster Esther Keku and the community editor and columnist of The National, Shona Craven. Very good morning to both of you. We're actually going to take people through the front pages, I think, before we chat to you. It's a whole fire. And let's look at those front pages, shall we? Because The Guardian is leading with Labour accusing Rishi Sunak of being asleep at the wheel over the government's response to severe flooding. The Times reports on the Post Office facing a police inquiry over the IT scandal which saw hundreds of sub-postmasters wrongly convicted. Prince Andrew is the subject of the Daily Mail's front page, which calls on the Met to reinvestigate claims of sexual assault. The Telegraph leads with the resignation of the former Energy Minister Chris Skidmore over the government's plans to allow the extraction of fossil fuels from the North Sea. And Goodbye, Darling Derek. The Mirror pays tribute to the husband of TV presenter Kate Garraway, who passed away after a long battle with COVID. So let's chat about the papers now with Esther Keku and Shona Craven as well. Welcome back to both of you. And a lot of those front pages that we've just shown people, we've discussed those issues in the previous hours, but this hour we wanted to delve inside and look at some of the stories there. And we're kicking off with the Times, aren't we, Esther? And this is reflecting on the release yesterday of Oscar Pistorius in South Africa after serving an 11-year sentence.
Yes, for the murder of his former girlfriend, Reeva Steenkamp. I remember this case so well in 2013. It feels like it's kind of come back full circle. You had this really distressed Oscar Pistorius in court, basically throwing up throughout the entirety of the trial, really distressed for shooting his girlfriend. He claims that he thought she was an intruder and that he heard screaming in the bathroom, and he leapt to action. Anyway, her family are really distressed by the fact that he's been released on parole. He's going to be banned.
It's actually after 6 years. I got it wrong. He was 11 years ago, but it was 6 years
of a sentence. Yeah, he's going to be banned from consuming alcohol, and he'll have to complete community service alongside also having to go to therapy to deal with his anger management issues. But obviously, Reeva's family are saying that they don't believe he's a changed man, and that they're really disappointed with this decision. They think he still poses a threat to the public, and his former girlfriends have come out and said that while they were with him, he did show signs of anger management issues. But this story I still think is incredible. I mean, this came out right after, I think, Valentine's Day in 2013, when it was revealed that tragic death had happened, and now to see him out in the streets again is quite something.
Yeah, and Reeva Steenkamp's family have said that they're the ones who are suffering the life sentence, having lost her. And of course, we talk a lot about Oscar Pistorius, but it's the victim we should be remembering in all of this, shouldn't we?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's interesting because obviously you have full sympathy with the fact that this will haunt the rest of their lives, but I suppose when you're such a high profile person, then the restrictions of the conditions of this parole are strict, and he's really under the gaze of the media scrutiny so
but he's
much.
He's not allowed to talk to them, is he?
No, well, and also the streets were barricaded while he was taken to, I think, a cottage at his uncle's house. I mean, yes, his family are wealthy to some extent. He has all this privilege, but journalists will be waiting to snap a photo, follow his every move. So, who needs a parole officer when you have the full glare of the South African media waiting for you to make any misstep so they can get you back to prison?
And the reason there's such fascination there, and actually around the world, was because he was such a big figure there, wasn't he? He was seen as something of a hero.
Yeah, and an inspirational figure as well.
Absolutely.
I mean, a few months before, he was in London for the Paralympics, so this is someone that really had kind of international media. And also there was the issue of the fact that he had to have a retrial because the judge that was involved in his first sentencing was seen as too lenient. So I mean, it was a complete spectacle at the time it happened, and it's kind of almost come full circle now.
Yeah, whether or not he will succeed in lying low will be interesting to see. Move us on, though, Shona, and take us to The Sun, because they have a double-page spread reflecting on the fact that there are so many elections around the world this year.
Yeah, so it's being dubbed the year of the election. It also mentions that some people are labelling it the year of the despots. Not sure if they're including Donald Trump as one of the despots or not, although he seems to be now self-identifying as a dictator, at least for part of the time. So we're going to have the US election in November. We may also have the UK election in November. I mean, that seems the most likely time. So I don't know.
Certainly what the Prime Minister's hinted, that he's minded.
Second half.
Yeah, well, second half of the year, and then if you're still going to have conference season in October. So they could be at the same time. And I mean, in some ways, quite a contrast in terms of certainly the age of the candidates, but then maybe you could say, you know, wealth and privilege and status are common denominators. Also, there's going to be elections in places like Russia and Belarus. You know,
wonder which way those will go.
Who knows what the outcome of those will be? But yeah, I suppose it is a bit more unpredictable what's going to happen in the US. I'm still not entirely clear if these are going to be the two candidates. Obviously, it's being positioned as Trump versus Biden, but I feel like anything could really happen between now and then in terms of criminal issues, in terms of health issues that might come up. So yeah, loads of countries. I think it says in The Sun around half the world's population, a record 4 billion people, are eligible to go to the polls this year. I mean, whether people will necessarily bother in some of the countries where their vote perhaps doesn't count. But of course, in the UK, a lot of the votes won't count either because of our first past the post electoral system. So yeah, there's a lot going on, and it's sometimes we can be guilty, I think, in any country of really focusing on the minutiae of our election and our politics. But there are so many things in the world. One of the things it mentions is the potential use of rogue states meddling in other people's elections, using AI to flood social media with deep fake images, videos and messaging. I think that sort of, I think that kind of Black Mirror future reality is probably already upon us, and it will become very difficult to spot what's real and what's fake.
And when you've got so many elections close together, whether or not the oversight is as sharp in those situations, and also it could herald real change in the world, couldn't it?
Basically. I mean, yeah, geopolitically, it's a very significant year. I mean, I think if we had to look at the top 5 elections, India is definitely up there. Obviously, the US, the EU Parliament, obviously the UK. I mean, it's going to be quite a significant year.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Covering it all here on Sky News, of course. Esther, take us on to The Guardian now. There's a story about cancer patients, and they're linking it to the impact of the strikes, aren't they?
Yeah, so apparently tens of thousands of cancer patients have had their appointments cancelled over the last 13 months. And obviously with this wave of strikes being the longest on record, it's going to destabilize that even further. I mean, this is particularly significant because in terms of clinical outcomes, the UK has one of the lowest results when it comes to cancer in the developed world. I mean, it's on parity with Portugal, whose entire GDP is still less than what we spend on our NHS. So that's quite significant. But unfortunately, this is one of the downsides of the ongoing pay disputes within the NHS, and obviously the pressures mounting on the government to try and tackle that as soon as possible.
Well, yeah, I think we're day 4, are we, of a 6-day strike by junior doctors at the moment. So yes, whether or not there'll be any shift in positions, we'll have to.
I mean, it's quite a negative report, really, when it mentions that there's no sign of an end in strike to the dispute, in sight to the dispute. But it is worth noting that the potential of industrial action by junior doctors in Scotland was averted, and a deal was reached. I believe Hamza Yousaf and Michael Matheson, Scottish Health Secretary, have offered to help mediate in England, but have been rebuffed.
Okay, interesting stuff. We haven't got very long, but I'm really interested in your story in the Mirror, Shona. The headline in itself is intriguing. You may have to spell it out for me.
Yes.
Loo Drive Me Mad.
Loo Drive Me Mad. So it's about the most annoying household habits that have been reported. I mean, it is a bathroom supply firm who've done the poll. We could be slightly sceptical about the fact that it's very toilet dominated, but maybe not, because maybe these are the things that annoy people. Not replacing empty toilet paper rolls is the most annoying household habit. I wonder how many of these families have children in them, but it's that sense that maybe the bathroom fairies will come and remedy the situation, and you don't have to lift a finger. Leaving wet towels on the bathroom floor as well.
I mean, that just baffles me. How do you leave a wet towel on the bathroom?
Because you think someone's coming in 5 minutes later to pick it up for you. If you live alone like I do, you will not be doing that, because you will be the only one to suffer.
That's so strange.
I don't think I'm going to go into some of the other ones, the toilet-related ones, but just to say that I can see all of those are quite annoying, and I'm sure I'm not guilty of any of them.
Yeah.
Possibly I am. Anyway, we will leave it there. We can discuss Loos as much as you like backstage, but we're out of time for this chat. Shona and Esther, really lovely to have your company this morning. Thanks so much. Do say whether so. We've got lots coming up for you. In fact,